Welcome back to yet another Chaos Cultist conversion video. In this guide, I'll be showing you how to build the followers of the most elusive of the Chaos Legions. I'm of course talking about the Alpha Legion. As always, I'll be showing you the steps used to construct the miniature that you see before you now, and telling you the parts I've used for this kit bash. So, let's get started. The Alpha Legion are proficient at infiltration, secretly building up their support in key positions of the populace before revealing themselves at the right moment, ready to sow chaos across the planet. So, to represent this, I'll be using the Palanite Enforcers as the basis of this conversion. This will give the impression of law enforcement falling under the sway of the Alpha Legion's influence, no doubt turning a blind eye to cultist activity before employing their martial strength when the time is right. So, from the Palanite kit, you'll need to grab yourself the parts required to build the torso, legs and neck. Clean and assemble these parts before gluing them together. You can always clip away some of the pistol and maul arms off now if you want to as well, but just save these for later. Once the Enforcers show their true allegiance, I would imagine that they would want to indicate whose side they're really on, and what better way to do this than with some distinctly un-Imperial headwear. I'll be using one of the masks taken from the Daughters of Cain kit, specifically the Sisters of Slaughter, Canary Heartrenders, or the Melicite Blood Sisters, which is the one I'm using here. But before we can use it, we need to make a few slight adjustments. Using a knife or a file, start by carefully trimming the pointed ears away from the mask. Once the ears are removed, we need to do something about the gaping hole in the back of the head. This can easily be filled in with a little green stuff or similar putty. I'm using some perfect plastic putty here, and once the hole has been filled, you just need to smooth it out with a damp brush before allowing it to fully dry. The drying time will vary depending on the product you use, but once it has dried, you can then file down the head to make sure that it sits flush against the back. Once you have done this, you can glue it to the Palanite's neck. You're then left with a suitable cultist mask. The more ornate head I've used here can be used for your unit leaders, whereas the smaller masks from the Sisters of Slaughter are much better for your rank and file. To give our cultist a slightly more sinister looking weapon than the blunt force trauma inducing power maul, I'll instead be dipping into another Dark Elf kit, the Black Ark Corsairs. The curved blades found in this kit make for excellent close combat weapons for your cultists. Start off with the maul. Make a cut just above the handle with some clippers. You will then need to smooth out this cut with a knife or a file. Do the same for one of the Black Ark Corsair blades, but keep the pommel guard attached to the blade. Once you have both halves prepped, you just need to glue them together. Once this is done, you can then go ahead and glue both arms to your cultist. In the same way you can make use of the more ornate Blood Sisters masks to denote unit leaders, you can also give them a cloak to represent their higher rank. Again, we can look towards the Black Ark Corsairs kit for some lizard skin cloaks. This scaly hide works perfectly with the Hydra iconography employed by the Alpha Legion. But before we can use the cloak, we need to cut it down. I'm using a saw here as it's much faster than using clippers or a knife for this task. And you will notice that I'm focusing this cut towards one of the folds. This will help to hide any damage caused by the sawing, as well as giving us two usable halves that we can spread out across our units. As the inside of the cloak forms the back half of the Corsair's torso, we need to do a little more clipping and trimming to ensure that we get a flush join against the Palanite torso. Keep making some small incremental cuts, trims and files until the back is smooth. Then compare this against the torso. This should identify the remaining areas that require trimming. Continue chipping away a bit at a time until the cloak fits against the shoulder. This can be a bit time consuming, but it shouldn't be too bad if you limit this to your higher ranking cultists. Chains are a feature that sometimes appear on Alpha Legion miniatures, especially if you look towards the Alpharius miniature on Forge World. This small detail is especially easy to reproduce by grabbing yourself some chain, like this one from Zinj Industries. The first step is to choose a starting point for the chain, such as the point where the cloak attaches. Apply a small drop of super glue and place the chain into the glue. Hold this in place for a little while to allow the glue to fully dry, and once dried, you can then pull the chain down towards the opposite side of the body, towards the waist. Once you're happy with how the chain looks, you can then clip it to the desired length. Pulling the chain taut, you can then glue the loose end to the belt with some more super glue. Then continue to apply a small amount of super glue across the chain until it is no longer loose, as this will make it much easier to paint later on. The final step in building our cultist is to give him that typical freedom fighter vibe, and gluing some grenades to his chain. These grenades can come from whatever kit you have to hand. You just might need to separate them from each other and shave down the backs a little to give you a better fit against the torso. Once you're happy, you can bring in some plastic or super glue and fix the grenades into place just below the chain. Once this step is completed, all that's left to do is to base and paint your miniature. And you should be left with something that looks like this. So hopefully you learned a few tips to create some fairly simple Alpha Legion cultist conversions and enjoyed watching this video along the way. While it is inevitable that these kind of conversions will require extra cost or effort, I hope the results make the expense and time spent well worth it. So if you've enjoyed this Chaos Cultist conversion video, then be sure to check out my previous guides where I've already tackled most of the legions, including the Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, Death Guard, Word Bearers, Night Lords, Thousand Sons, and World Eaters. Next up will be the final of the original legions, the Black Legion, and let me know if you have any other conversion ideas you would like to see me tackle. If you're looking to recreate this conversion, then you'll probably want to buy yourself the individual extra parts from bit sellers rather than buying the full kits for them. I personally recommend Bitsbox, as I've used those guys in numerous conversions and they have helped out the channel quite a few times. For your Palanite Enforcer kit, however, then check out Firestorm Games using that affiliates link that you can find in the description below. They offer discounts on Games Workshop and other wargaming related products, and they ship worldwide. Plus, anything you buy after using that link will send just a little bit of money my way, which I can put directly into producing more of these videos. And finally, let me say a huge thank you to the guys who support me on Patreon. Your continued patronage really helps with the cost of making these videos, and it's really great to see you guys helping me out, and it allows me to be a little bit more experimental with the kind of videos that I produce. Now, I've included my Patreon page in the description below, where you can donate to me from as little as $1 a month. So the only thing left to say is, thanks for watching, and goodbye.